very busy, but I wanted to get this video out before Gen 7 comes to a close because, hey, where's my top 6 favorite and least favorite Gen 7 Pokemon? But it's especially necessary, I feel, to get this video out in this week because in a week, the series is going to change forever. Now, I'm really busy. I'm killing myself just making this video, so this won't be up to the standards that my other videos have met. It's just kind of going to be me talking, mostly off the cuff. I have some notes on my computer. I want to keep this brief because I have a lot that I have to do today, but I really wanted to get my thoughts in about the Pokemon series as a whole. Some of the controversy regarding Gen 8, and of course, my favorite and least favorite Gen 7 Pokemon. So I apologize. What I'm going to say is going to be a little more brief. I'm really going to be reading along with my notes, but thank you for watching, and sorry conditions couldn't be better. So, as I said, the entire series, as we know it, the entire Pokemon franchise, is going to change significantly on Friday of this week, November 15th, 2019. From that point onwards, our entire mindset of thinking about the series is going to be different. So I just wanted to get my thoughts down on how I think about the series now before it changes. So I got started with Pokemon in 1999, first with the TV show. My mom rented it from Blockbuster. I had never heard of Pokemon before in my life. We watched it and we loved it. And then for my brother's birthday, he got Red version. And for my birthday, I got Pokemon Blue, the very first game I ever owned, with the Game Boy Color, my very first game system. Later that year, we would get a Nintendo 64 with Pokemon Snap and Yoshi's Story. But from the very beginning, Pokemon has been one of my most beloved franchises of all time. It's easily in my top 5 video game franchises. I love it dearly, and it's been such a big part of my life. Why do I like it? What do I like about Pokemon? Hopefully you like these things too. The number one thing I like about Pokemon, and the reason why we have stuff like, oh, my top Pokemon videos instead of like, oh, my favorite cities, is because as a biology-minded person, I love all the creatures, even the ones I don't like. They have their place. I love that the Pokemon universe feels like a living, breathing world with its own countries, its own flora, its own fauna, its own ecosystems, its own governments. I love it. And it's something that, you know, it's so real and so magical that you wind up wishing, like, every single year, when you make your wish to blow out your candles for your birthday, if you're not wishing that Pokemon were real, you're like doing everybody a great disservice, because it's just the most wonderful universe to be a part of. And it's awesome that these Pokemon are based on so many different organisms, many that a lot of Americans haven't heard of. That they're based on different mythological creatures and even some cultural objects, such as Meowth, who is based on the Japanese idol of a cat with a coin, or obviously Vanillux, who's based on a double cone ice cream thing. Yeah, let's move on. I don't want to spend too much time on everything because I do have very limited time today. But it's really special. And from the very get-go, I was all about learning all of them, and it's cool. I think that now there's more than 800 Pokemon. I think there's about 822, something like that, and I know all of them. I can't list every single one to you, but I know them. I know what they're about. I know what they're based on. I know what their general moveset is. I know what their types are. Like everything. I'm like an encyclopedia of Pokemon knowledge. And it's just sad because in a week, that encyclopedic knowledge is going to be completely and utterly useless because of reasons that I'll get into. But it's sad that, like, it's sad. So another thing that I really like is training a lot of different Pokemon to see what each of their strengths and weaknesses are. I used to, when I was a kid, I would have a team of like 6 Pokemon, and it would be more like kind of like 10 or 11, because there'd be some Pokemon that you start off with early on, and then later on you like dump them, like Mightyena or Dustox and Sapphire. But lately, starting in X and Y, I've been like having a big team of like 12 or 15 Pokemon. Oh, it makes grinding such a chore. But it's a lot of fun because I get to try out all these different things and see all these different Pokemon that I've always wanted to use and never could really quite fit them into my team, like Ninjask or Shedinja. It's really awesome. And sometimes, like in the case of Ninjask or Shedinja, I find a new favorite along the way. Actually, Cloyster is a great example of that, but we'll get to Cloyster. Another thing I really enjoy is exploring new places and traveling the world. It's like, I like that each of the countries are based on real-world countries. Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh, of course, are all the main 4 islands of Japan. Actually, I think there's only 3 of them. I think there's one island that doesn't have a game yet. Anyway, I like that Unova and Alola are the United States. I like that Kalos is France. I'm excited about Galar because we get to go to the United Kingdom. I'm hoping we get an African country sooner or later because I think that would be freaking sick. But it's something that I've always enjoyed, and I really learned to appreciate it after I went to Japan in 2016 and was able to go all over the places that Kanto and Johto were based on, like see them for real life, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. Like, I've been to these places before in my Pokemon game. And I think that's like part of what GameFreak wants you to get out of Pokemon. So, you know, it's really special, and it's a lot of fun when you go somewhere new and there's like a rare Pokemon there that it's only got like a 5% chance of being found, and you're like, oh man, I really want this Pokemon, and you're searching, and it's like hours before you find this thing. That was with me in Gen 7 with Oranguru. Oh, it just takes forever, and you're like, 5% can't be that hard to find. Why haven't I found it yet? And you're just going on and on, but then you find it, and it's just cool. Like, there was this Pokemon that was completely hidden in this route that you've been here for hours, and you never even saw, but it was there, and it's the only place to find it. That's cool. Not so cool in Gen 1 with Kangaskhan, though. That's awful. Another thing that I really like about the series is when you get a good Pokemon battle going. Like a lot of the fights in recent Pokemon games are very lame. Trainers only have like 1 Pokemon and stuff. It's so dumb. But I really like when you have a good Pokemon battle, like maybe with a gym leader with the Elite Four, and it gets your blood pumping, and you're like, oh, trying to manage everything, and you're throwing revives at everything and health potions, and you send a Pokemon out just to stall while you revive this other Pokemon. That's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's like a game of chess. It's good stuff. I like that. And recently, I starting in Gen 6 with its great online system, I got into fighting my friends online. And now I like come up with all these Pokemon that Pokemon that I use just to like get a leg up on my friends, and oh, wouldn't this be fun to use? And competitive is too much work for me, but you know, if you have some friends who are good at Pokemon just like you are, it's like, you know, it's fun to do that. That's how I got a new appreciation for Pokemon like Cloyster or Wobbuffet, who in game never would use them. I mean, I think I tried once with Shelder, maybe, but never really used Cloyster at all. Had no interest in it. But then, like, I tried out the way that Cloyster is done competitively, and it's like amazing. It's so much fun. It's great. And Wobbuffet is a lot of fun too with Shadow Tag, which I think is banned in a lot of places, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun. And I'll like think of, oh, what's a Pokemon that I want to try using against my friends, and I'll like train it up and stuff. That's great. That was really special. That's one of the things that is going away in a week, and I won't be able to do that anymore, which is a shame, or not as much as I did previously. And then lastly, I just like the, sort of along those lines, I really like the freedom and customizability that the series offers. Particularly with your team, most JRPGs do not give you the ability to pick and choose your team like Pokemon does. It's really awesome. And in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, when I wasn't really feeling the Pokemon in the game, it was really awesome to be like, you know what? I've never used Ponyta. I like used it briefly, and I think Pearl version. It might have been Platinum. No, it would have been Pearl version because I had Chimchar in Platinum. But I'm like, you know what? I want to use Ponyta. I want to use Zebstrika. Or, well, the analog there would be Rapidash. Rapidash and Zebstrika, which aren't in the game. So I'm just like, okay, boot up Alpha Sapphire, grab the Pokemon I need, make eggs of them, send them to Ultra Sun, and then I had it. And it's awesome. You can do whatever you want. You can have like a team of, I've been, and also in Ultra Sun, I've been doing a team of all fossil Pokemon, and that's just so cool. It's hard. It's I like most of the fossil Pokemon, but they don't really play off of each other's strengths and weaknesses very well. So having a whole team of them is tough stuff. But it's cool. And I like that you can do that, or like, oh, I'm gonna have an all grass team. Oh, I'm gonna have a team of all ungulates, or all birds this time. It's awesome that you can do that, and I only just discovered that these last few years, and that's another thing that's going away. Unfortunately, it's like sad. You know, some people are like, oh, it doesn't affect me and stuff, but so who cares? But it affects me, and it's really sad. So let's get into what's happening on Friday. So Pokemon Sword and Shield are coming out on Friday. Gen 8 is starting. I'm looking forward to it a lot. I've seen all the leaks. The new Pokemon coming out are amazing. Spoilers alerts for this list. I don't like Gen 7's Pokemon very much. Gen 8, at least design-wise, there are some phenomenal designs. I'm really impressed because they're by the guy who did Vanillux, which I'm not a Vanillux hater, but its design is like kind of shaky. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to the story. I think there's something up with the chairman. That's what I think. And some people have been saying maybe the champion can't be trusted. I'm interested. Pokemon they tried to trick us a bit in Gen 7, you know, with Team Skull and the other bad guys and that. So I'm interested. See what happens with that. The wild area looks mildly interesting. I've not been very impressed by it, but you know, conceptually it sounds cool. So I feel like that's one of those things where you have to try it to be able to see if you can really appreciate it or not. I'm looking forward to Galar as a whole. Some of the environments that we've seen look pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to the playable characters. I really can't pick between the male and female characters this time around. It's tough. I think I'm going female, but they're both designed. I mean, their default design is great. Apparently, they're hyper customizable. So that's a whole other thing to look forward to. And lastly, Toby Fox, who is responsible for everything with Undertale, did, I think, just one tune in the game. But then you've got returning composers from Gen 6 and Gen 7, and to put it frankly, Gen 6 and Gen 7 have had the best soundtracks of, like, any Pokemon game ever. So I have a lot of high hopes for the soundtrack for Sword and Shield. I think it could be pretty good, at least as long as they keep the trend that they have been going. I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, especially with the leaked stream this week, there seem to be a lot of cut corners with Sword and Shield, and the developers overall seem to be sort of lazy with it. So I won't really get into the reasons behind that, because that's not really the point of this video. But I'm excited for Sword and Shield, but I'm also kind of a little wary. It looks like it might need from the stream, it looks like it might need like a day one patch or something and stuff. So I probably won't get it immediately. I'll wait for reviews and see and go from there, whether I want to get it like new or used, probably used, or if I just want to skip it altogether and wait for the third version. But anyway, so unfortunately, actually, let me just stop this video just so I can be sure, and just in case there are any technical issues that show up in it. There aren't technical issues for the next part, so there's going to be like a cut or something. Okay, so all of this is to lead up to the fact that on Friday, the series is going to change, possibly forever. I talked about how awesome it is that it feels like Pokemon are creatures in a whole living, breathing, thriving world. Well, that's done. It's all done. Having looked at all the leaked Pokemon in Gen 8, I won't spoil who they are. There's some amazing designs, a couple of stinkers, but there are stinkers with every generation, right? But it's clear and obvious to me now that from here, moving forwards, Pokemon are no longer supposed to be creatures that live in our world. That's just done. What they are now is they're characters. They're characters that some of them could be living, breathing animals, and some of them are like joke characters. They're just thrown in there for a laugh. Some of them are game-specific characters. There are a lot of Pokemon in Sword and Shield that evolve from Pokemon from previous generations, but they only evolve from the form specific to the Galar region, which means that it's almost impossible. It's going to be almost impossible to get them in any later game, so they probably just won't even be included. And that's another thing, as you may have noticed me alluding to. Starting on Friday, Pokemon games will no longer include every Pokemon so far. It'll only include a curated batch. GameFreak said that it would be based on popularity and who fits in the region, but I've seen the leaked Pokédex. That was a bunch of lies. It's whatchamacalls it? It's business as usual with regional decks. There's nothing. It's not like an underwhelming regional decks or anything. It's good, and it's a pretty big one, but it's not. They use this language like, oh, we're going to hand pick all the Pokemon in each region from now on, and you can't tell. It looks just like any other regional decks. With that in mind, that just because Pokemon shows up in Galar doesn't mean it's going to show up again. There are a lot of Pokemon that are like one-off Pokemon. The fossil Pokemon in Gen 8, for example. I won't spoil them, but I would be shocked, quite frankly. I would be shocked if they come back in another Pokemon game. At least in the next, like, 10 years. They have a whole mechanic behind them that is completely specific to Galar. I would be very shocked if they came back. And then there's, again, the Galar form evolutions and stuff. So, like, Pokemon are characters now. They're characters to be marketed. They're characters to be sold. I mean, that part was always the case. The reason why Pokemon is the biggest media franchise of all time is because of merchandising. That's where they get their money from. So, you know, it's always been let's make marketable creatures that we can sell. But, you know, now you've got stuff like, kind of similar to like Alolan Executor, where it's only made for a laugh. You know, like, oh, look at that. We're going to get everybody excited for our game by just coming up with this crazy thing. And some of the Pokemon just look like people. Which is a whole other ballgame that I won't get into. But yeah, so there's that. I talked a little bit about Dexit already, and, you know, one of the things that's going to change is that lists like this video aren't really going to matter. That's why I really wanted to get this out now instead of when I actually have time to make this video, because most of these Pokemon, in fact, we know over half of all Pokemon on Friday will cease to exist in the series until the year that GameFreak kindly decides that those Pokemon are worth putting into a Pokemon game again. In the future, for every Pokemon game that comes out, we are going to be fighting with each other over which Pokemon deserves to get in this time and which one needs to sit it out. In a sense, then, Game Freak has pit fans against each other. You know, now, if a game has, like, Poliwag, I can't just be like, oh, Poliwag's in, that's neat. Now I'm like, wait a second, Poliwag got in, but freaking Girafarig isn't in? What's up with that? Why doesn't my favorite Pokemon get to be in? Why does freaking Poliwag get to be in, or Magmortar? Or, you know, why do they get to be in when I'm waiting to use Cradily or Archeops? Where are my fossil Pokemon? You know? And we've never had to do that before. We have this unity that is going to go away on Friday, for better or worse. And I'd like to emphasize that I'm not saying that these changes are bad. They're just different. And a lot of people think that change is bad. And that's not always the case. Sometimes it's just different. So what I love and enjoy about the Pokemon series as a whole right now might cease to exist, but something else might take its place that is just as good, better, and, you know, if it's almost as good, I'm okay with that. You know, good things don't have to go on forever. If it's almost as good, you know, as long as it works, I'm fine with that. It's just sad because something special to me, and I guess to other people, is being lost. That we won't get it again. The last thing I wanted to mention on my thoughts about the current trajectory of the series is that there are a lot of people right now that are fighting about these changes. The game isn't even out yet, but polarization is going on, tribalism is going on, in-group, out-group bias is going on, and there are people who have put themselves in the anti-sword and shield camp. There are people who have, in response to that, put themselves in the sword and shield cult camp, where instead of hating everything, they love everything. And if you hate something, you're a fake fan. And in the former one, it's like if you like something, then you're not holding Game Freak up to task. And that's unfortunate. And, you know, I don't think that's the fault of fans. I mean, it sort of is. We're all human. We have these biases. But it's really the fault of Game Freak for making poor decisions, for hyping up a game as the game for veterans of the series, and then not delivering on that, considering what we know. It could be different when we play it, you know. But I like to think of myself as somebody who does their best to always be open-minded. So even though change is happening, and I don't like that change is happening, so I might be in the anti-camp. But, you know, it could be good. So, and there's stuff to look forward to in this game. There's a lot to look forward to. So I just want to emphasize that change isn't necessarily bad. I'm not making this video because something bad is on the horizon. It's just that something I love is the sun is setting on it. But where I firmly find myself unhappy is Game Freak's handling of its fan base this past year. Specifically, that since June, Game Freak has been routinely lying to me. You know, lying to fans and to the Pokemon audience. They've been lying to us. And sometimes, you know, they don't lie. But they make excuses. And when it came out in June during E3 that Pokemon were getting cut from the series until Game Freak decides to put them back in, which, by the way, some Pokemon still haven't been put back into a game. Poor Glameow. Everybody brings up Glameow, but Glameow was in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, and that was it. It wasn't in any other regional decks. It could be caught in the post-game in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and that was it. So Glameow fans have been waiting for more than 10 years for their favorite Pokemon to be playable. Anyway, so Game Freak, when it came out during E3, that Game Freak sheepishly and embarrassedly admitted in a interview that most people did not watch that only Pokemon in the Galar Dex would be allowed to be used in Sword and Shield. It was very devastating to a lot of people. But, you know, I thought to myself, well, if that's the case, then what they should do is show us. Come out and be like, hey, not everybody can make it in, but we're not going to skimp out on you. So here's what you get in exchange for that. Here's the trade-off. Here's what is going to make that loss worthwhile. Like, for example, oh, we're not modeling all these Pokemon, so we're going to use that manpower to do something else and make something incredible. But they haven't done that. Every time they've addressed this issue, it's been because either somebody asked them in an interview or because they got annoyed with harassment, which, by the way, is never okay. And just had to be like, by the way, we're not changing our decision. Like, these are the people that I and many others Oh, a huge chunk of our childhood and careers, too. I went into biology in part because of how much I love Pokemon. So to see these people, and Junichi Masuda, by the way, is a fantastic composer. So I'm not like judging him as a person, or I'm not saying he's like bad at some of his job, but to see him and the other person in charge of the game come out and make excuses and try to hide this huge pivot for the whole series is insulting. And the lies are particularly bad because they're so obvious. They keep lying. The only thing they lied about about how they can't include all the Pokemon because of the models, because they're reusing a whole bunch of models. They lied about how they needed to cut them because, oh, they have to work on these great animations. They're using the same animations that they made in 2013, which, by the way, all the models then were supposed to be future-proofed. They lied about balancing, which it's obvious. Should be obvious why balancing is not even something put into consideration. We now know they lied about putting in popular Pokemon or putting in Pokemon that fit the region well. Was there anything else? I can't think of off the top of my head. I think there was like something else. It's very annoying, you know. And they they lied about how they had to remake their models from scratch, which is such bullshit. It's unbelievable. But they something they did was sorry, I lost track of things. So the one thing they said on day 2 of Treehouse, not a lot of people realize this because day 1 of Treehouse is what got attention, where Masuda lied about models and animations, saying that the reason that we shouldn't be sad that there aren't any Pokemon is because of the sheer quality and amount of high quality animations in the game, which is like the biggest fib I've ever heard in my life. But on day 2, he said that the reason why they want to have a limited Pokédex for all future games is because every generation, even though they future-proof the models, there's still a lot of work that they have to do. They have to come up with the stats for every Pokemon. They have to pick every single Pokemon's move pool, like the moves that it learns, at what level it learns those moves, what egg moves it gets, what TMs it gets, etc., etc. They have to pick from they have to include all the ways of evolving all these Pokemon. Basically, what I said is that there is a bloat in the Pokédex. It's just too big for them to handle now, and that is disappointing from the world's highest, most lucrative franchise. But if they just stuck with that story, it would be whatever. It'd be like, okay, I get it. You screwed up when you're introducing this, but hey, change happens. But maybe when Sword and Shield comes out, it'll be great, and I'll forgive them, and things will go on as normal. But I need to get down right now that I have high expectations for Game Freak, given that almost every one of their games is one of my favorite games of all time. And with this game, with this upcoming generation and their new change for the series, currently, with what I know, they have not met that expectation. And they need to do a better job and be more professional as developers of something that many people care about. Okay. So maybe the changes will be for the better. They could be worse, but all in all, this was one last glimpse, one last recording of the world of Pokemon that I grew up in, and the series I consider as one of my top franchises of all time.